Okay, let's start, inshallah. And so this is the first session. As a Muslim tradition, we are starting late. And inshallah, today we will be discussing about these Muslim traditions, like whether starting late or eating a certain type of food is really part of our religion or not. And hopefully we will end up with saying that, no, starting late actually is not part of our religion. Yeah, it might be a surprise for some. So anyway, so the topic is, the theme is finding Islam in America. So there are different, of course, the reasons we chose this title. One, it has to be catchy. The second is we realize this is something that we do all the time. Like, this is our purpose. We're trying to find Islam. And what I mean with this, probably it will become clearer as we start talking, inshallah. But most of the times we take it as granted that we know what Islam is and we know that we are Muslims. But when our honest moments, we realize that it's something we have to chase, that we have to searching for. And the idea will be here in US, in America. This is, of course, just an example, because we are living in America. That's the only reason. We discuss whether we are in a good position, maybe quote unquote, in a luckier position to find the true Islam. That would be our investigation, whether this is the case or not. But inshallah, we want to start with some observations. So it may sound a little bit pessimistic maybe at the beginning, but inshallah it will end up with being at least a little bit optimistic. So the first session here right now, we will inshallah explore some problems, some issues, as we can see. So we need your contributions a lot to adjust our, the views as well. So we will start from there and then try to understand what might be the cause of these issues that we will talk about. And then in the second session, inshallah, it will be more like an open mic. It means we will ask your opinions about certain topics. It won't be like a math quiz, so don't worry. It will be like just about yourself. There won't be like questions,
which might be more difficult.
Yeah, it might be. So, and then in the third session, inshallah, we will try to find some solid solutions to our issues. But let's start from there. Yeah.
So I guess again, welcome everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Inshallah, today will be divided into 3 sessions. And so we decided that in order to properly talk about religion in our lives, right, the role of Islam in our lives, and if something has gone afoot, in order to properly discuss that, we have to first diagnose perhaps the problem, right? Talk in depth about what is the issue at hand. And I think this first session will really be about diving in deep about what are the problems at hand? What are the concerns? Why have we gathered in the first place? And as Brother Birkan said, the second session will be really having this open forum to discuss our personal experiences and what that brings to the table. And then hopefully finally to wrap it up, not to, resolve everything with one magical last session, but to talk about ways in which, okay, knowing all of this, having discussed all of this, how do we go forward? How do we think about the function, the status of religion, of belief in our lives, and what that means for us? And so I wanted to start with a few observations I had, and these may be common knowledge, but I'm sure all of you have heard about it as well, that religion as a whole, let alone Islam, is in this sort of not frantic but steady decline, and not just in the US but globally. but especially so at the rate it's going more so in the US. And that every year, more and more people, when they at least check off those polls that say, well, you know, are you Christian? Are you Muslim? Which one are you? Are checking less and less these very identifiable labels of Christian, Muslim, Jewish, and so on, and more so unaffiliated, for example. Even, you know, Christianity, it's the most identified with religion in the US, and usually was at a steady rate of like 7 out of 10 people would identify as Christian. I think recently that's gone down to more like 64, and they say by 2050 it might be around 55. It'll still be the majority, but there's obviously a trend that's going on here. And according to recent polls, like 24% of Americans identify as unaffiliated. And that's a lot. When 0.09, I think, or no, 0.9 is like Muslim. So 24% is a lot. And then if we look at millennials as a generation, right, 60% are saying unaffiliated. And this doesn't necessarily mean these people don't have belief, or they don't have any sort of connection to something, but that they are choosing not to identify with this concept of, let's say, institutionalized religion or religion with a name. And so, and this, you know, this I think is something we can readily observe in our lives as well, right? Our friend groups, the amount of, and the types of people that attend the masjids that we're at, the types of people that we see at Jummah, how many uncles versus how many of your classmates might be there. So this is something that is very observable in our own lives, perhaps observable in our friend groups, right? People expressing doubts about what it means to be Muslim, the beliefs that come entailed with that. And so, you know, recognizing, trying to understand what is going on, what is at hand here, and how may it manifest in our own lives as well, because we're not exempt from this. We're not sort of outside observers. We're very much, you know, partaking in this larger, I guess, phenomenon or trend as well. So I wanted to ask you if you had such observations as well about all of this.
As you said, I guess this is like a global phenomenon. It's not like only in the Muslim countries or Muslim groups that we are losing something, but globally things are changing, that's for sure. And I mean, the change might be just on the outside, meaning maybe for years, maybe for decades, people already didn't affiliate themselves with certain religion.
This doesn't happen overnight.
But for certain, the reasons, like societal reasons, they were not just clearly, openly saying it. Maybe that's the case. No matter what's the fact, today, at least, it is very clear that we have a change. And the change is not only about the numbers, also the ways, the manners that we are connected to the religion is also changing. The ways we are approaching the religion also changing and becoming more and more secular. Even among the Muslim people, the people who identify themselves as Muslim, being a Muslim mean like a significantly different thing than, for instance, when we ask the same question to, let's say, a few centuries ago, or the companions of the Sahab, the Prophet, ﷺ. So what they would mean to be Muslim versus what we mean as what it means to be Muslim is changing a lot. So when we take Quran as guidance, for instance, and when we try to apply everything in the Quran to ourselves rather than talking about other people and so on. So, for instance, Quran explains part of this phenomena under the name of the Bani Israel, right? Quran says, oh, look at the people of the Bani Israel talking to us. Again, meaning, look at your aspect, your side, Muhammad, right? When you open the Quran is talking to you and telling you that, look at yourself when you are acting like Bani Israel, meaning making religion as part of your cultural identity, for instance, or something that you inherit, or something that is inherited from your family, something you get it by as a birthright or something like that. So this is a stereotypical attitude of Bani Israel, right? As we take it. So Quran is telling us that you are doing the same. And when we read Quran in that light and try to benefit from it and try to find some solutions to our issues as we describe, I would say, I mean, the numbers are just, arbitrary here. But when we come together and discuss with friends, we come up with like kind of 5 different reasons why our approach to religion is getting, let's say, not that fruitful, okay? And why we are losing people. And when I say losing people, I'm not talking about just numbers. I also meaning like myself, why my connection to the religion is getting weaker and weaker. So
we're not immune to these.
Exactly, we're not immune to it. Yeah, the main point shouldn't be just identifying the reasons for those who are not attending Jummah prayers. This is just a symptom. Like when we look at the number of people attending the Jummah prayers at Penn, for instance, versus the number of people with a Muslim background or coming from Muslim families, you will easily identify the problem. Okay, so that's just one symptom. It's not the the diagnosis, or it's not the cause. The same way as you said, like if you go to the mosque, you will see whom? Either students, young people who came from other countries, right, trying to establish something there, or really old people who are the first generations. And you wouldn't see, I mean, I'm not talking about 1 or 2 people, not exceptions aside. In general, you wouldn't see people who was born and raised here 2 generations, 3 generations, right? You wouldn't see them much. So even these 2 observations by themselves as a symptom, again, tell us a lot, that something happening to our religion, like these people, new generations, they are not finding the religion as excited as before.
So I just want to interject. So 2 points that I'm getting so far. One is that although there's this sort of sociological dimension to all of this, right? And we're going to outline or listen to you outline 5 reasons why religion seems to be cast off more and more. So there's a sociological dimension to it, but also one of our primary concern here is, again, I'm not immune to this environment, to this setting, and the 5 ways in which, as you said, I'm losing that connection to my belief, to my religion as well, and the ways in which that's constantly sort of being gnawed away at, and trying to identify that. So there's a very sort of, I guess, personal dimension to that, or else it's, I think, easier to take this approach where we step away and try to analyze all these sort of socio-political factors, but to look inward and say, okay, what is the state of my belief? What is the status of things in my life? I think that's much more difficult. And the second thing I wanted to highlight was, what was the last thing you had mentioned? Oh, right. So it seems like I'm wondering, and this is more of a question rather than a comment, is what you're getting at that religion, the status of religion being more of a generational divide, right? If we see first generation immigrants more, let's say, indulge in religious activities versus those who grew up here or have been here for quite a while, then is this something that is about age, or something about your status as an immigrant or not? Is religion something that becomes intrinsically tied to one's sense of origin, whatever that might mean? And is the idea that the farther we become distanced from that quote unquote origin, the farther we become distanced from these sorts of religious ideas? Is that what you're getting at?
So I think like the way I see is like if there's a tree and the tree bearing some fruits, and you taste the fruit and the fruit is not delicious, let's say, and it's even bad, you wouldn't just hold the fruit and blame the fruit. You would say there's something wrong with the tree, right? So this is the way I look at it. So again, all these symptoms about the young generations and so on and so forth, I don't think it's something about the young generations.
Right.
It's not something that they drink or they eat. It's not they're breathing a different type of air. The tree is rotting.
It's not a culture war.
Exactly. It's not a war of like generations or culture. That there is something wrong with the tree. And if we identify as ourselves as Muslims who trying to make dawah and expanding the religion as an MSA, for instance, if we call ourselves as the backbone of the religion in university, then you have to check yourself to explain what's going on with these people who are not attending our meetings or congregation prayers. Mm-hmm. Of course, you cannot blame yourself for everything, but if you're a father, for instance, and if you see your daughter putting a distance with religion and herself, you question your attitude, the way you teach religion to her, or you question even maybe deeper, more fundamental, like what religion means to you. What are you trying to teach her? Maybe what you are trying to teach her doesn't fit her humanity. Maybe you are trying to teach something else than the religion, but you are still calling it as religion. Maybe you're just trying to oppress her. And you just, like the religion for you as a father, for instance, if that you have the right to decide who she will be married to, if this is the religion for you, then it is better for her to put a distance between her and the religion. Because definitely this is something oppressive, like it shouldn't be done. So she's better away from religion, if this is the definition of the religion. So this is the way I'm looking at the problem. Like, again, all these numbers and so on, these are just symptoms, symptoms of our illness. And again, going back to what is the illness then, I would say, again, from our discussions, I would say there are we can categorize maybe in 5 different categories. Okay, I'm telling the numbers so that there will be quiz at the end of the session, I think. So you have to remember all these numbers. Did I say 4? 5. Okay, yeah. The 5 regions. 1. Let's start from the first one. This is, I guess, maybe the core, one of the core ones, is the secularization of the religion itself. So it's really like interesting, like it's like a oxymoron, right? The secular religion, belief, unbelief, like the religion becomes like an unbelief. So what it means, when we say secularization, it means looking at the things with glasses of like worldly glass. What it means, like I'm looking at here, and all I see is that there are 3 men, and then their biological, the mechanisms, the entities, they are like a animal, but more computational power, thinking better. They can speak, they can think more than animals. Like probably they are like a social, conscious, and thinking animals, I would say.
Sounds like a scientist.
Exactly, right? This is my profession.
Yeah.
And if I see some problems with their behavior, for instance, I would say, oh, maybe they have some problems with their genes or the way they were raised by their mother, father, and so on. that would be my glasses. Like whatever I see there, it's all about the chunk of matter, the flesh and bone. This is what I see, and this is what being secular means. Like when you step on the ground, on the earth.
Right. The interpretive glasses that you put on changes what kind of meaning you are going to derive from your experience and observation.
Exactly. And I think for generations, we are now taking religion as well from a secular glass of perspective. What it means, we are more interested in how we look, how we act, what we do, what we say.
But I mean, religion does encompass all of that.
It does, right. Yes, definitely. Yeah. Like, I mean, they have some biological entities, right? It's not lie, but it is kind of, the part of the story. But if I say they are only flesh and bones, then I secularize them. So when I say the religion, for instance, in
and by
Islam,
secularize, I don't know, you can correct me. In this context, it seems almost synonymous with materialize.
Materialize or naturalize, maybe more generally.
These seem to be all sort of parallel lines of thought, right?
Exactly.
Secularizing, materializing, naturalizing.
Yes.
They're kind of combined ideologies.
Yes.
Right.
So when we say, for instance, we are Muslim, if the first thing comes to our minds is the organizational structure, right. Meaning, there are scholars, there are these, there are that, and then we are a lay person, or talking about your family structure, talking about the ways you eat, what you dress, how you dress. They should be at least. So they like saying that they are part of the religion. Again, I guess it would be a controversial topic.
Right. I mean,
but they should be.
Right. I mean, what I'm saying is that like Islam, right, does have dimensions that look to my physical appearance, how I behave. It is very much concerned. It's a sort of holistic approach. It is very much concerned with all of these, if you will, like with the material as well as the immaterial, with not to have that sort of dichotomy, but with how I dress, with what I eat, with, the words I speak. Like it is concerned with all of this.
Exactly. Right? I mean, they are, again, the part of the story. So maybe one example would be the example that we always give, book. Like the book, it has these material aspects as well, right? You cannot talk about the book without paper, without ink, without the cover. You cannot talk about a book. But at the same time, that this ink, paper, and so on, they are there to make a connection between you and the story inside the book. So what makes a book is the story, the fact that it is being written. So this is the book, and the ink and paper comes on top of that.
Right, they're necessary, but they're not the actual book.
So you have to, of course, you have to show your religion with your actions. It is, again, part of the thing. But when I say Muslim or when I say Islam, if the first thing comes to your mind is about, when I say Muslim people, I'm talking about the people with scarf or people with this kind of beard or that kind of mustache. If this is the thing, or even, so again, don't get me wrong. Like I'm not saying anything against prayer, but being Muslim, if it is only about the 5-time prayer or fasting in Ramadan, if this is the first thing comes to your mind, so somebody comes from another, let's say, culture, another, let's say, group, and ask you, I heard you are Muslim, what it means to be Muslim. And you say, you have to fast, and then you have to, pray 5 times. You cannot drink alcohol, by the way. If this is the way you explain, then you are like acting in the reverse order of what Prophet did. Because it took how many, 11, maybe 12 years before all these rules started revealed. So the first thing, like we are studying on Tuesdays, the Quran in the revelation order. The first thing the Quran does, the revelation does, is forging or shaping the persona, the person, the subject, what it means to believe in God. And the first thing about the Islam, what is it? Iqra. Iqra bismi rabbikal lazi khalaq. So this is Islam. The first thing, should come into our minds. It should be that, oh, we are all being created. And whatever I look, I see the signature or the name of my creator. This is what it means to be Islam, a Muslim.
So I know you're not saying that, for 11 years, we should just drink alcohol. And then, after every other belief is solidified, we can stop doing all that. That's not the point, right?
Yeah,
because the entirety of the Quranic message is given to us now, and we should try to observe all of it as much as we can. But that at the same time, what you're saying is that there is this sort of educational paradigm of the Quranic message, right? And that when we try to imbibe it into our lives, when we try to live it, we can't just reduce it to certain movements, to certain exteriors, if you will. And that part of the secularization of religion, as you're saying it, is that we do end up reducing it to exteriors without taking central the Quranic worldview of how am I as a human being to approach this tree, my problems, everything else. What does it mean when I pray, right?
Exactly.
That there's this sort of, let's say, going back to the book example, there's the story in the book that you can't necessarily carve out in terms of physical terms, right? It's something intangible there, but it is still enclosed within this sort of physical material, just as the Quranic message is enclosed in our physical behaviors, in the visual and everything else, but that we miss out on the sort of worldview or approach to existence that it offers us. And so our immediate understanding of what it means to be Muslim is then again reduced to these exteriors. Is that something along the lines
exactly?
Of what you're
like
saying?
Maybe giving a practical example. Like I don't want to be too controversial here, but the secularization of religion basically means that when we say religion, we actually mean our nation, our cultural heritage.
If you're from this country, you're
yes,
Muslim,
exactly.
X, Y, and Z.
So,
if you're not, you're not.
Exactly. So if you are, for instance, was born and raised in US as a white person, right, from a non-Muslim background, and you choose to be a Muslim, if you are feeling a tension between you, your life, and other groups, it's not even one group, like it's like a Pakistani people, Turkish people, the Kuwaiti people, I don't know, Bengali people, whatever. Bengali people, sorry. I always do the same mistake. If you feel this tension, it means there is something going on there. Maybe we are defining our lives, our religion, at least partly overlapping with our nations. Right? And I'm sure it is true with everywhere in the globe. In Turkey, let's say some people, just to be nice to my home country, some people think the best Muslims are Turkish people. If you go to Pakistan, again, some people, not majority, I'm sure, will think the best Muslims are Pakistani people. If you go to Saudi Arabia, everyone will say the best Muslims they are. But anyway, like you will see this trend. So it shows that there's this secularization. It's about our genes. So we are not then any different than an evolutionary biologist. Because if religion is something defined by your genes, coming through you, through the generations by being purified.
I mean, it's funny you say that, because I mean, I've come across people who say, "Oh yeah, I'm an atheist Muslim," and and they say this with a straight face, and I'm supposed to be like, cool. But the idea, there's something very real in that statement, right? Because what they're saying is, what they're actually trying to say is, my family background is Muslim, and so I come from a cultural background that is imbibed with all the exteriors of Muslim life, right? But I personally, in terms of belief, and maybe I think we're going to talk later about what is belief.
Yeah, we can say.
In terms of belief, don't identify with any sort of commitment to God or anything else like that. And this isn't just sort of inherent to, Islam or Muslims, but we see this, right? There are secular Jews. There are, and that might be more sort of prominent because there is a sort of like question of ethnicity and otherwise. But we see that happening amongst Muslims as well, or people, again, like who identify familially as Muslim, but not worldview wise. So this is a very real phenomenon, and there's a very real feeling and emotion and background that comes with statements like that. They're said in sincerity.
Exactly.
And so we have to then analyze, if someone just says, "Oh, I'm Muslim," what is the difference between that and the person who says, "I'm an atheist Muslim"? Oh, this person's Muslim, that one's atheist Muslim? Or is the first person saying, "Yeah, I believe in God," or, in all these sort of belief propositions, but at the same time, it's very inherent to me identifying as a Muslim is my family background, or as you were saying, my national origin, or the customs that I, have grown up with. And so it seems like the issue that you're also kind of circling around is that of religious identity, right? Of how religious identity has become secularized, because we do live, again, in a society where we check off, I am Muslim, I am Christian. Like, these are sort of just secularized concepts used for demographic measurements. Like, what does all of this mean?
So again, I don't want to be too much controversial, but
I think we've gone far past that.
Oh, really? So the identity politics, it's all about secularization thing anyway. Like, when we say that, we identify as a Muslim, it means that, treat us as a separate group, respect our choices, respect our way of living, how I dress, how I eat, and so on. Give me a lunch space where the halal food is served. But the rest is, I am different, you are different. So this kind of idea, like a Muslim or Islam being just a choice, yet another choice among other choices, it's already a secular point of, like a worldview to begin with. So Islam is not for a certain group of people. At least this is not how Quran speaks. It's always, when it's about the basics, it always, O ayyuhan nas, right? So if we are taking Islam as our religion, again, our religion, and our is either the nation, family, type of people, the skin color, and so on, Asian, Middle Eastern, whatever. If we're taking it that way, and we ask other people also, to take it that way, or treat us differently, or treat us like respect us because we are Muslim.
Right. And I wanted to say, like, we always say the phrase, we as Muslims. Like, what is the we?
Exactly.
What is the we referring to?
So how we define this we part, I guess, make it either secular or religious. So which is, okay, going back to belief then. So what was the first thing is the way we take religion, a secular idea, right? Religion as an identity, as a cultural identity, as a background, the first. The second is when it comes to belief, it's almost like checklist. Okay? We say the main thing about a book is the story. So main thing about the religion is Iman, right? It all starts with Iman, it ends with Iman. So of course we can, explore what it means, what Iman means, and inshallah we will do this in third session. But just to practically speaking, Iman, believe in what? God, believe in Prophet, believe in angels, believe in books, and so on and so forth. So we take it, again, as a checklist.
Things we memorize in Sunday
Exactly.
school.
How many things you have to believe in to be Muslim? Please, 6. Yes, that's correct. So this way, right? And we can count them. Sometimes, I'm confused. May Allah forgive me. Sometimes it's 5, sometimes it's 7. But we can count them, like we memorize them. And we say, I'm a Muslim. What it means? I believe in Allah.
So what's the problem with that?
So
is it wrong?
No. Of course, it's not wrong. Like this is the conclusion that the Quran or the revelation or the Prophet, came with and want us to reach, or gave us the things as a guidance. So, for instance, believe in angel. This is the favorite topic, right? So, other day I was listening the Juma khutbah, and the guy was talking about the angels, and the topic was how many wings they had. I remember, like during I don't remember whether it is like a primary school, secondary school, but when people they're like analyzing how and why the Roman Empire collapsed, one part of it was that they took religion not as something to flourish them, but the only discussion the clerics, the religious clerics, the scholars were having right before the Byzantine, how do you pronounce Byzance? Byzantine collapsed. The scholars were discussing the gender of angels, whether they were female, whether they're male, and that was the only discussion. Okay, of course, like characterizing the things, but this is how all these things collapsed. Okay, or when this is more maybe about the Dark Ages in Europe, right? The people would say it was a dark age because the religion became so secular, and the iman, the belief matters, were became so empty. The only thing they would discuss is the gender of the angels and so on. Like that was like a stereotypical symptom of a collapse. And we are not much different than this anymore. Belief in angel, so are not, the task here to define what angel means and so on. But it must be something if Quran comes with such an idea. And if Quran says, this is the first thing it says, right? In terms of at least the order. It starts with Fatiha. The God, introduced himself. And then comes the introduction of Quran, definition of Quran, which is, the first ayah of Baqarah. This is the book for muttaqin, what as a guidance. So if Quran, the first thing about the Quran is guidance, when it comes to belief matters, it must be something that I need as a guide. And if the angels or prophets or books are defined this way, as a checklist item, you have to believe in certain creatures that you don't see, but they have that many, wings. There are hadiths talking about the number of wings and so on and so forth, and I take them seriously for sure. But also I try to understand why would Prophet mention something like that as a solution to my problems? So obviously he was not trying to teach me some numbers. He was trying to tell me something, probably metaphorically, maybe in a symbolic way. So my understanding should be like, where is guidance there? So the same thing, the belief matters, the six pillar of Iman, Islam. They have the things that I need for guidance. Without them, I should fill the gap. So if, for instance, somebody comes and say, very reliable scholar, one day comes and say, oh, we were mistaken. The belief in angels is not in Quran. So you don't have to believe in angels anymore. Something should change in your life. If it's not changing and you think that, oh, okay, I don't have to believe these creatures anymore, it means it's just a checklist. And this is what happened. Angel is like a very, the easy to maybe mention, but the same thing goes with books even. Belief in books, what it means. Oh yeah, I believe in the Quran. How about the older generations? There were no book there. What did they believe? So for Prophet himself, he's supposed to believe in book or books. He didn't have a book. Companions, they didn't have a book. Believe in prophets. It's not only prophet, right? Oh, we say there were that many prophets. It's again just a number game. So we have to feel in them.
So it seems like what you're saying is that these pillars of belief have to mean something,
exactly,
right, in our lives. Yet usually, I'm not immune from this. The way we treat them is, well, these are sort of like pillars I memorized in Sunday school or Saturday school when I was, 7, 8, 9 years old, and that may be fine for that age, right? But as I grow up, like I have no further sophistication of what those beliefs mean practically in my life. How does belief in prophethood help me navigate my day-to-day struggles, or belief in angels help me better approach a difficult situation, right? But instead, what they remain as are sort of memorized propositions rather than living truths in my life that change the dynamics of how I live. And I guess this also takes us to the question of, what is belief then? Because it seems almost contradictory to say, I believe something, but oh yeah, also it's memorized. Like these are, is it a fact or something that belief usually has carries this connotation of conviction, right? This is something I believe in. I have conviction in after I've sort of traversed through this personal journey and have reached this conclusion. So, it's and, maybe we'll talk about this a bit later as well, but it's a math problem. There's the answer maybe at the end of the book, let's say in the Quran, of what I need to believe in. But if you give me the answer to the math problem, but I haven't solved it, it doesn't mean anything to me. I can memorize the answer, but it's not, even on in class, on the homework, I'm not going to get any credit for it, if you will, to speak in a sort of analogical way.
I just tell you 3.
Sure. And I'm like, okay,
what is 3?
Is 3, but it doesn't mean anything in my life.
Yep.
And so approaching, and again, these are, as you said, larger symptoms or reasons for this sort of disconnection that we feel with belief, with religion, because we've secularized it, right? 1, and 2, we've turned it into things that don't have any practical meaning in our life or practical guidance in our life. Although the Quran, as you're constantly reminding us, repeatedly introduces itself to us as a living guidance, as something that when I go out into the world, when I go out into my life and witness the various struggles, various sort of encounters that I come upon, that when I go to the Quran, there's a sort of, it's going to tell me, yeah, this is what you're experiencing, and here's guidance for it. But I'm living very removed from that. And perhaps most Muslims or people who identify as Muslims or are starting to not identify as Muslims also experience that disconnect, which is again leading to this larger, if you will,
exactly
situation.
So what we said so far, okay, the outer shell, like let's take it as a fruit or maybe a seed. So there's this outer shell, the manifestation, like outwardly manifestation of the religion. The first thing we said, okay, we only concentrate on this shell. We secularize the religion, how we look, what we do, how we act, and so on. The second, when we look at the core itself, the shell and the core also doesn't have any meat anymore. It became a checklist, something to be memorized. And when I teach or when I act, when I show religion this way to others, I guess this connection is so expected. Like I'm reading this story to my daughter, this, everybody knows probably, Peter Pan. Peter Pan has this Tinkerbell, like the fairy. They put this fairy dust and they can fly and so on. So I'm trying to skip this Tinkerbell part, at least for now, because if I tell the Tinkerbell, I have to also say that, there are no such creatures. Like this is just, the story. But at the same time, if I teach angels the same way, and then ask her to believe because I said so. Like a Tinkerbell doesn't exist, but this angel who looks like a Tinkerbell, but male, it has to be male as well. That was, again, the Hadith was saying that, but it exists. So why one doesn't exist, the other one exists? Oh, because the first one written by an unbeliever or Christian, so you cannot believe it. The second one, the angel, doesn't matter the name. You have to believe it because your Muslim father said so. So, and then I expect my daughter to be a good Muslim. Then I should, check myself first.
Right. So I think, it makes me think that the problem isn't necessarily that we end up memorizing these pillars of belief, right? The problem is that they remain as memorizations in our life. It's more about like our approach to it. The problem isn't that we can go to the Quran and see like what is my creator communicating to me? What should I know? But also that we don't investigate or try to confirm it. We take it as given. And so we become just sort of satisfied with very little rather than pursue what the Quran itself says we should pursue. Here it's more about what you're highlighting, the approach to certain belief matters. That is the problem, I think.
Yes, exactly. And okay, the two things we said,
right.
The secularization. What about the second thing, I think? Okay, thank you. So the third thing, I will switch the order a little bit. The third thing, I guess, which is related to the second thing as well, taking belief that would sound familiar. We are in a Christian association, and this is the way we always criticize Christians, right? We take religion as something like a leap of faith. So, because again, the first we take the religion and put all the emphasis on the exterior part, and with the core, the seed, we transform it into a checklist. There is nothing to be really discussed, really think about anymore. So what you should do, you should just submit. So you submit, and then all these beautiful feelings and all this, the good way of living feel in you. And this is like just remove these beautiful feelings or love of God, remove it, replace it with Jesus, you will get your criticized Christian belief. So it's not that much different anymore with us as well. So when we talk about religion with others or our younger generations, our children, or even older people, that the religion is something that, oh, you submit. First, say that you believe, force yourself, make the submission, and then the rest will come. This is also something, especially in our day and age, that the people wouldn't accept that easily.
I mean, it's almost funny to like think of forcing yourself to believe. Again, it goes against the very idea of what it means to believe something. Like if you don't, I don't know, I don't have a good example, but if you don't believe strawberries are tasty, again, this is not the best example, but someone is saying, no, like force yourself to believe their taste. Like, I mean, that's not a useful example, but what I'm trying to say is that the idea of forceful compulsion, right, and belief is very contradictory to each other, and yet we apply that compulsion to ourselves. We say, I'm Muslim, so I have to believe this. And when we have questions or we have doubts, then that sort of opens up this very this perfect ground for a lot of distress within ourselves as well, right? Like, oh, then I'm not a good Muslim, or then I guess I'm not Muslim. It's a sort of progressive stages of thinking until you end up with, I'm not Muslim, or I don't believe, because there isn't this space to navigate that middle ground of how am I supposed to come to this conclusion that is what I need to come to in order to qualify as this religious identity of Muslim.
Yep. So again, and this is this is very important, because this is the link between the people and the religion. What I mean is that if you ask people become Muslim through just wishful thinking, then you are losing them in from the beginning. If Quran, if your belief, if your revelation doesn't come as an answer to a problem, to a real problem, as a practical answer. So rather than, I know, you are having these problems, but forget about them for a moment. Think about everything that you will receive hereafter. Just submit to this idea and you will be happy. This is not the Quran defines itself. Mm-hmm. Again, Quran is what is Quran? What we said about Quran? Quran is what? Guidance, yes. So guidance doesn't work like that. Like you don't go to a psychiatrist, for instance, and share your problems, and she or he tells you, I don't have a solution for you, but continue coming here, okay? Pay your fee, and it will become better eventually. All these books on my bookshelf and so on, you will get familiar with them eventually, step by step. Just keep coming. I'm not telling you anything about your problems. I'm not giving you any solution, but just keep coming. Trust in me. It doesn't work like that. And Quran doesn't work like this either. We are taking it this way. So you have to first submit, and then the rest will come. It has to be, so again, we shouldn't take this to another extreme either. Meaning, so we said the belief is at the core, right? You have to first get security with your conclusions that believe in God, meaning when you look at the universe, I don't want to steal, the content from Yusuf and Nazmu, but belief in God, meaning when you look at the universe, when you look at your family, your friends, you cannot explain anything without attributing to God. This is impossible for you. This is believing God. It's not an option. It's a necessary.
And also, like, just to quickly tie back to that first reason you had highlighted about secularizing religion, right? That's another way we do secularize religion. We say this portion of my life is the religious portion, which is when I'm in prayer, when I go to Jummah prayer, or when I fast during 1 month in the year. That's the sort of religious portion of my life. But my education, how I hang out with my friends, what I do in my spare time, like that aspect of it is non-religious.
Exactly.
And so when we portion out our life into split it in this way, then we're saying this part of it is secular, this part of it is religious, but it ends up being, all of it ends up being a very secular.
Throughout generations, we realize that the religious part, it doesn't constitute that much, time anyway.
Right.
The secular part is getting expanding and expanding and expanding. And all you end up with as like a religion is that once upon a time there was a God who created the universe, and you have to believe this.
Rather than, again, as this larger overarching approach to how I view myself, how I view others, how I approach the existence of things, right? Rather than this larger worldview that encompasses every single aspect of my life.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, okay, I was saying that we shouldn't take the other extreme as well. Meaning, first I have to study, I have to, come to certain conclusions that I have to prove myself that there must exist a God. And then I have to prove myself there must be a prophet, books, angels, and so on and so on. And then I will start praying. So this is not the way we, train ourselves in any matter. But rather how it works, you come to a certain conclusion, tiny or big, and you submit to this conclusion of yours. And then through your submission, your belief expands, you learn more, you understand more, and then you submit more, and then you believe more, and then you submit more. It should be like it's like a very fruitful cycle. This is what it needs to be.
Right. It's not that there's no space for submission, right? But about situating it in its rightful position.
Exactly.
In terms of having investigated belief and then submitting to that. Yeah.
So when it comes to, again, the younger generations, for instance, if we are teaching Islam, for instance, to ourselves or to others, you first start with what Islam solves and give them the taste of it, make them enjoy, and then they will submit to it if they are honest to themselves anyway. Mm-hmm. And then through this submission, you will expand the belief, like together, like you will study and so on. They will taste more. They will submit more. Mm-hmm. Anyway. So that was
number 3.
What? Number 3 or 4? 3. Okay. Okay, great.
So do you want to highlight just them?
Yes, please.
Again?
Who will count them? Yusuf is not here.
He's
here. He's hiding. Okay. What was the first?
Secularization.
Secularization, yes.
Okay. The second one? Checklist. Okay. Iman becomes checklist. Like the first, the exterior becomes just worldly life, yet another worldly life. Second, the core of it becomes a checklist. And the third one, our connection to all these becomes what? A leap of faith. Yeah. Without knowing anything, without tasting anything, you have to jump. Great. Yeah.
Thank you.
This side is really good. Like if you are, taking notes. Fourth one. This is the best, I guess, the most, the fun part. Belief as inheritance. So, for most of us, we take belief as part of our inheritance. Like my father's left me, 2 houses, not for me, for sure. Maybe only that. Just kidding. 2 houses, 1 car, this land to, raise some fruits or whatever, and my religion. So in one sense, it is true, like in one sense that we are thankful to our forefathers. without our lineage, which connects us to the Prophet.
Right. There's a very real
Exactly.
lineage of scholarship there.
Exactly. We are nothing. Without this lineage, we are nothing. Like, let's keep this aside.
Yeah.
There's no religion without Ahl Bayt, let's say, right? And using Ahl Bayt as a generic term. What connects us to Prophet, to revelation. Without this lineage, there's no religion, for sure. But when I say inheritance, it means like, again, we say I was born Muslim. Yes, according to one hadith, again, everybody, born Muslim.
But that's not the way we use it.
That's not the way we mean. What we mean is, I'm Turkish, and I'm not part of this secular Turkish. Turkey, this division. So my family was kind of religious. I'm automatically Muslim. And he is from a Christian country. He is Christian. He is from Jewish country. He's Jewish. He's from atheist family. He's atheist.
Yeah.
This is the way we define. So I always use this example, which is, when we see someone with a different skin color, what is it called? Complexion, like, let's say, lighter complexion, blonde hair, colorful eyes, and she is practicing, the first thing we ask, how did you convert, or how did you became Muslim, right? When did you, sorry? Oh, yeah. I was cheating. So when did you become Muslim? Ask the same question to yourself. When did you become Muslim yourself?
Oh, no.
Or have you became Muslim? Right? So, of course, this is not like, I'm not trying to start a fight here.
Exactly what we're trying to say.
Yes, there are certain things, like as part of our qadr, right? We are created in this form, within this family. So it was chosen for us, for sure. There's no denial of that. But at the same time, the same creator who created us in this family, in this culture, in this nation, also in the revelation, the same creator says, when you tell them, believe in what Allah sent down. In Baqarah 170, they would say, no, we will believe in what we see in our fathers, what we saw from our fathers. And we usually take this, verse as, oh, it's talking about the mushrikeen, it's talking about the other people, and so on. Quran is talking to me. You are supposed to believe in what is revealed, what is sent down to you, not where you were, not the thing that your father said. So it must be the true, it may be the case that what your father is saying is true, so then you will believe in that, not because you find your father believing in that. So that's the way the ayah goes. When they are said, believe in what Allah sends down, they say, no, we will believe. They don't say, no, we will believe something else. They say, no, we will believe what we see from our fathers. So I don't pray because it was revealed by Allah. I pray because my father prayed. The question is whether you should pray. The question is not, whether you should pray or not. You should pray. There's no question there. But are you praying because your father said so? Or are you praying because Allah sends down this, the order or the path for you to reach him? So that's the inheritance.
And part of that is that when we say things like, I was born Muslim, we are stripping away ourselves from the responsibility of investigating for ourselves, what is it, what conviction do I have in this world, right? What kind of conclusion have I come to? We kind of strip away that agency or the fact that we do need to go through that process. We do need to go through that journey. And we do, whether we realize it or not, right? We just might end up sort of suppressing it or saying, no, I'm Muslim, I believe this or whatever. But it's also like, this is also what we see practiced from our own families, right? They ask, have you prayed yet? Or there's this sort of, if you stop practicing in the way they're practicing, it's a sort of betrayal of that familial line. It's a betrayal of that sort of national origin as well. So it's almost as though you can't remove that religious identity from that sort of larger attachment to your family, to your country, because the moment that you start to question that, then your parents or your community might feel a sense of almost like betrayal or, oh, are you trying to just like depart from us? And that goes back to the earlier points we made about religion becoming so affiliated, so linked, and so secularized through the sort of national identity aspects of it. But I think it's very much, again, this notion that if belief is something that is inheritable, then it's also something that we don't need to question after, pursue after. And we have a hand here. Yeah.
This just reminded me of the experience with a friend, but I just want to generalize it and ask. Let's say, asking for, this is a question for people coming from Muslim background. If you are coming from a Sunni background, take it as Shia. If you're a Shia from Sunni, or for people in Pakistan, India, take it as Sunni versus Ahmadiyya. Okay? So if a friend of yours in one of those mainstream becomes atheist versus becomes the other sect, which one is more hurting? Like, which one would hurt your parents more? If you're a Sunni, if you become Ahmadiyya, if you're Ahmadi, you become Sunni. You better become atheist than becoming the Ahmadiyya. If you're Sunni, you better become atheist rather than becoming a Shia. Vice versa. This tells a lot, actually.
It's about how we tribalize it, very much so. How we tribalize it, and
we exactly had something like this. A friend became like he was following a certain sect, then he initially became an atheist, then became like mainstream, as we would consider as mainstream, whatever. Still a lot of issues there. But then I asked which one was more reactionary from your family. He said, well, of course, this one. But atheist people don't take it that bad. Like, it's okay. It's just the guy's wondering. So it's interesting.
yeah.
But before talking, like giving such examples, you have to say, I don't want to be controversial. Like you do that, so that people be prepared.
You're right.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just going to say, and like the example that I really like, that I've heard, I'm sure many others might have heard, is that like, you know, if your entire family was comprised of doctors, your parents were doctors, their parents were doctors, and their parents were doctors.
I have a friend who, like a
I'm sure it's very common, and I'm sure
father,
given our demographic,
brothers, all doctors. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah, and like it's very common. And if you suddenly put on a white coat and say you're a doctor, it doesn't make you a doctor, right? You need to go through that sort of arduous educational process in order to be able to say you're a doctor. But that's exactly how we treat being Muslim. My parents are Muslim, their parents were Muslim, and so I'm Muslim. But have I gone through this sort of self-confrontation with myself and my own humanity of what I believe, what makes sense to me? That I can say that, hey, I'm Muslim, and not just in the sort of capital sense of this is my religious identity, but I am trying to be Muslim, trying to become Muslim rather.
Exactly. So it is always a journey.
Right.
It's been always. What we are saying here is not something new. We're talking about the life of Prophet and the Sahaba. it was always a journey. It was never like a snapshot Muslimhood. For Prophet, it was 23 years, right, of Muslimhood. For Sahaba, the same thing. I was very surprised because, like, I was so, accustomed with this idea of inheritance myself. Like, it is easy to say, talk about the other people, but when it comes to yourself, it's usually harder to criticize. But it seems that I am also so much connected with this idea of inheritance. I was so surprised when I learned this. So the guy he's a scholar of Life of Prophet, very good one. And he was giving some examples from the life of Sahaba. And when I say Sahaba, I'm not talking about any Sahaba. I'm talking about like Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, Umar radiallahu anhu. When I first hear that their children, the child of the son of the Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was not a Muslim, even fought on the other side in the Badr. I was so surprised, like how it is even possible. The father is Abu Bakr, the son is on the other side. It's the son of Umar radiallahu anhu. When he is Halif, not even during the first years, when he's Halif, he was punished for drinking alcohol. So I'm not telling this to gossip about the Sahaba and so on and so forth. For everyone, even for children of Sahaba, it is a journey, a personal journey. It's for you. When you look at the numbers with Tabi'un, like the generation after Sahaba, around 60%, even maybe more, of the famous the Tabi'un scholars and so on and so forth, I would expect they were all children of Sahaba. It's just the other way around. So even for them, even for their children, it's a journey. Who do you think you are compared to Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, that your children will be automatically Muslim? This is how we take it. We are complaining about children, our new generations not being good Muslims, and we take them like they have to be Muslim. I am Muslim. Don't you see I'm practicing, I'm praying 5 times. It's their journey. What you should do is be accompanying them, being accompanied in their journey. Teach them, make them taste it. But when we take it this way, that the religion as inheritance, so what happens when you move to a place like a US? Then you don't have much ties with your inheritance anymore. Then cutting these ties, it's much easier. In Pakistan, it was not that easy for young generation to become atheist. But here, it is much easier. And it's not because they have something wrong with them. It is because the way we define them, give them the religion, is through inheritance, and it doesn't work. Because this is not reality. It doesn't work. So that was the third one, right? Oh, fourth? Okay, that's great. Let's go with the fifth one. We don't have much time, I guess.
Yeah.
And the fifth one, as I see, is we have too many options now, even sometimes better alternatives. So I will put better in quotes, of course. In our society, in this day and age, we have lots of alternatives to solve our practical problems. We are
such as?
Sorry?
Such as?
We are searching for meaning, like why I'm spending all this time with my work. as Yusuf always says, I'm using his name because we'll talk about the family issues. So it's not my family, it's his family. Like, for whom I'm working for. My wife is not happy. My boss is not happy. Right? I'm not happy. My children, my child, she's not happy. Every time I'm putting this shirt on, she's asking, oh, Daddy, are you going to work? Meaning, like, oh, can't we play anymore? Right? Because she knows that even if I'm working at home, the shirt puts this barrier between two of us. She has to ask for permission. The other day, I don't want to be the dramatic here. It means be prepared for drama. Other day, like, I closed the door, and she was opening the door. She was trying to open the door, and I said, oh, I have to work, Bushra, like, I have to finish this. And I realized the door was closing. Like, she opened it, and then she's closing it slowly, but crying at the same time. Like, so sad, like, oh, I have to cry. So she's not happy, obviously. And then, of course, I opened the door. Don't worry. I stopped working, yeah. And then I realized it was a game with, her mother, and they were just trying to. Anyway, no, just kidding. So, who is happy in this relationship? Again, Yusuf's family, not mine. Yeah. So when I ask this question, religion doesn't provide me, and religion codes, the religion that we talk about, that we impose on people, doesn't give an answer to that. The best thing, we say, oh, God loves people who are working hard. I'm sure God didn't mean with this that you spend all your time in secular world. Work hard for what? To generate something that you don't even care, or other people don't care, or even they care. Again, we secularize it. Going back to the first part. Oh, I'm helping the Muslim nation. How? I'm creating better firefight, like the planes, the war machines, or better medicines, or better whatever. It's all about the secular world still. Their health.
But I want to ask again, like, when you say there are quote unquote better alternatives, I think, like, let's lay them out.
Yeah, okay. We hear a lot nowadays, like things like mindfulness. I'm not criticizing anything, right? I don't mind, like, but if you take it as alternative, it's a better alternative for most people. It makes them relaxed, more connected to the world, and so on.
I guess one of the ideas that I'm extracting here is that within our societies, within our communities, right, there's all these different ways of, let's say, not necessarily the best word, but like coping with the problems that we face, or solutions for the struggles that we face. And most of them don't end up being very religious, right?
Exactly.
It could be as basic as you have to eat more healthy, you have to exercise. By exercising, endorphins, that's going to help you manage stress. Where does religion play a role in managing stress? Like, it seems almost irrelevant. Like, it's come to this point where this sort of loss of connection with religion is almost from its irrelevancy. It's become sort of redundant, right? Like, if the Quran is to provide guidance to my everyday problems, well, I have all these other alternatives that are helping those problems. So what is the role and status of religion there in the first place is the question.
It becomes redundant, and actually a verse redundant, like the verse or a bad redundancy. Mm-hmm. It's like there's these alternatives that can give you so-called solutions right in the moment. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to religion, it's you have to wait. Oh, I cannot solve your problem here in this world, but in hereafter you will be rewarded.
All right.
Say it again. Oh, it's even a better word, like a recompense, as if you have to first pay something, or maybe reimburse even, right? Oh, you have to further pay. You have to struggle, and then we will recompensate or reimburse you.
Or even, I was thinking in terms of the type of life that we want to lead, right? Like, I want to help people, right? I want to cultivate societies that value these ethical norms, or that have, support these sort of humanitarian aids, like the things that we want to do that we feel make us a better human being. And it's not wrong necessarily, right?
Exactly.
Religion doesn't seem to play a role in that. And this is a very common argument, right? That, well, you don't need religion to be a good person. And this is along the same lines it's along the same lines of thinking that, like, the status and place of religion in our practical lives has just become sort of an unnecessary redundancy, right?
Yes.
And so then the question becomes, like, is it relevant at all when I have these other options?
Again, this, I guess, deserves its own discussion, maybe a session, but shortly we could say, yes, all these alternatives, so-called alternatives, they're just like a momentary cheats, like a tricks, right? They don't solve the problem. They cannot solve the biggest problem, which is what? What is the biggest problem of humanity? Any guess?
Why am I here?
Sorry?
Why am I here? Why am I here?
It's a solution, but the problem that you have to face, that you, like, it scare you, that you, especially death, yes. Nothing solves death except religion. And when I say except religion, it's not like, again, just talking about the hereafter. It's solving it right in the moment.
The death of this moment.
That of this moment. That of your health. Belief, or iman. We will probably discuss this in third session as well. Give the real solution, that is solid solution that you can step on. But other alternatives, they will just, again, empty your mind. That's the main motto in most of these, the alternatives anyway. The one overlapping theme is emptying your mind. Rather than,
confronting things.
Confronting and facing them and then understanding them.
Right.
And they become your teacher. This is the Quranic way. Your problem becomes your teacher, and you see the beauty within the problem. Not emptying your mind, filling your mind.
It's almost as though it's not about getting rid of the problems, right? Which is sometimes the sort of routes or methods that these alternatives, ways, or ideologies provide, which is how to get rid of this or how to even resolve it. But the Quranic message, as you're saying, is seeing how your cure is exactly in that problem itself, right?
Yes. Cure is in the illness.
Right, and how that can become the sort of educational process for you as a human being.
Yes. So, yeah, that's a very short, of course, the answer. Yeah. We don't have time. But because this is the fact that we see religion not as a cure for our problems, not as a meaning of our life, then there's no space for religion anymore, because there are all these other so-called alternatives.
Yeah. And
hence the losing religion.
Right. And we have about 4 minutes left, but, basically all of the 5 reasons that we've listed here are discussions in and of themselves, right? This is a huge topic that we can't really cover in all its aspects, but here it's just to sort of take a quick glance at them, or at least reflect over them a little bit. But do you want to perhaps here you've listed 5 reasons why we're experiencing this loss of connection to religion. Do you want to at least maybe give an idea of how do we go about in responding to those 5 reasons as well?
So we can try, like we don't have much time, but let's start from the beginning. Who remembers the first thing? Secularization of our belief, everything about being about the how we look, what we do, how we drink, and so on and so forth. So I guess the alternative is religion or belief becoming an internal conviction. It's something about what you believe, what you conclude as an internal thing, and the external shell follows it. It becomes its substantial, the entity in this world. So you cannot convince that there is a God without worshiping. If there's no prayer, there is no worship, there is no ubudiyya, or being a slave. And if you don't see yourself as a worshiper, it means you don't believe that there's a creator. So they go side by side, right? You cannot, separate them.
Right. And there's a lot of loadedness to what you just said.
Exactly,
but
yeah.
I guess maybe just simplifying it a little bit is that instead of secularizing religion into one aspect, one portion of our lives, it's about transforming it into an internal conviction that encompasses every aspect and every dimension of our life.
What was the second one? Checklist, the iman, the inner part. So we said we have to internalize what we're going to internalize. This belief matters, the iman, the pillars. They become paths for us to security. Without them, our life is meaningless. Without belief in God, something missing in my life. Everything is missing in my life. Without belief in angels or without belief in prophet, something missing in my life. This is Iman is not to memorize. Iman is like a prescription for security in your life, peacefulness in your life.
Right. Security and joy, security and peace, security in preserving the contentment that I feel, right?
Yes.
Securing the needs of my human feelings through these pillars of belief.
Yep. The third one?
Just one small comment.
Oh, yeah.
As if this belief is going to replace my nightly Netflix session. Because watching Netflix at night is source of my joy. So is practicing of religion going to replace that at some moment, I guess?
Yeah. Interesting example, but a good one.
Am I going to get somewhat of a satisfaction from there, or is it just somewhat of a responsibility?
The satisfaction, yes.
That has to be done so that now I can drive comfortably watch Netflix.
Yeah, something that inculcates joy, I think, into my life.
Third one, what was the leap of faith? Okay, great. So then, what is the alternative then? Again, you submit, but not as a starting point. As you submit to what you concluded, what you are convinced, what you believe in. You submit to that, you start living it. So then, so this is the connection between the first and the second, right? We said the secularization. What is the alternative? Prayer becomes the manifestation of what I believe. So the submission will make prayer possible. You believe in God. There must be a creator. There must be a Rabb of me, sustainer. And I ask him, then I submit to this belief, and I ask him to sustain me in my prayer.
The extent that I have a personal conviction is the extent to which I can submit, and then that in turn expands my belief. And
Yes.
As you said, it's a cyclical process.
And fourth one, sorry? Inheritance. So what is the alternative? The belief is your personal journey. You have to choose. It's not that, you are inventing the religion yourself, or you are inventing what to believe in yourself. It is, yes, it is the fact that we will end up, if we are honest to ourselves, every human being will end up in believing the same thing anyway. But you have to take the steps yourselves.
Yeah.
You have to follow the steps of the prophet. You have to follow the lineage of prophet yourself. It doesn't mean you have to be alone. You will be your company. You will be your, not countrymen, but the journeyman.
We should strive.
Taking the same journey. Yes.
We should strive to follow those footsteps.
Exactly.
But at the end of the day, it has to be our own footsteps in that
Yes.
path. We have to walk it.
Yes.
Yeah.
You will still pray in congregation. You will need companies, but it has to be your conviction. And fifth one was too many options, all these alternatives, and so on and so forth. All these alternatives will disappear when we take religion as guidance. Because then religion will fulfill its main purpose, transform us, starting in this world, preparing us for hereafter, but it will provide what we need, which is the meaning in our life, in every actions.
And we recognize that those other alternatives all stem from that very human need for meaning in the first place, right? Which is, as you're saying, what we can become receptive to once we open ourselves to the Quranic guidance.
Exactly. So inshallah, with these, 5 corrections, maybe we start, making things better for ourselves. Then our newer generations, meaning next Birkan, like a Birkan tomorrow, is a new generation of Birkan. Birkan tomorrow will not have a weaker connection with religion, inshallah. And of course, the same with the new generations in the other sense. Without such corrections, without changing our attitude, how we take religion, we shouldn't expect others not to lose their link to the religion. If we want more people in mosques, we should start going there more frequently, and then having this idea of that I'm going to mosque because it means something to me. Because without it, something is missing in my life.